Number 10. Long neck. Look, this one probably isn't a surprise to anyone. There must be like 20 documentaries on the subject alone, but today we're talking about the long-necked women found in some African cultures. In a nutshell, you pile on gold rings around your wife's neck until she's impersonating a totally winnable ring toss game at the county fair. The end result is a neck that's long just as the day is long. Pretty long. And in these cultures, this is considered very beautiful. Now, who am I to judge? I can't. However, as a lawyer, doctor, detective, and fireman here at Bumblebee, I'm gonna not recommend the giraffe look. While at first glance it may look like the neck is being stretched, it's really the shoulders that are being dropped forcibly by having so many rings piled up on your neck. That's not healthy for you. Anyone in the comment section that has played contact sport will tell you that dropping your shoulders like that is not good. I like my thick neck the way it is, thank you very much.
Number 9. Lead cosmetics. Did anyone know we still sort of do this today? Are we insane? Lead has been used in makeup for an extremely long time. It was found in cosmetics back in classical antiquity, so that's as far back as the 8th century BC. In the 18th century though, women would mix lead with vinegar to make themselves look more and more pale, which was a beauty standard back in the day. Gotta love looking like you never see the sun. Now, while the white lead that was used wasn't easily absorbed through the skin, the mixture of white lead with other chemicals and ingredients to create makeup and other products did indeed cause lead poisoning. And even though people knew this, they continued to keep on using it?
Number 8. Jiggle machines. Oh, the great effort people will go to not make any effort. The self-exercisers or vibration machines were a popular fad back in the 1950s and 60s. The idea? Lose weight fast and easy with the help of modern science and machines. Trouble is, they don't really work at all. In a way, it's pretty similar to the snake oil men of the past. A common issue, a weird solution, and then a great marketing, well, that would make for a fad. Someone had to just make bank on it, I know they did. I mean, I get the appeal. I do. I wish I could be a 1950s housewife with a vibration machine, so I could be beach ready. But being a 1950s housewife means I'm so busy. But with a belt machine, it means I can keep my hands free, so I can reach for my favorite brand of menthol cigarettes and my third morning martini. Boy, I sure love this modern world. Wow.
Number 7. Ear scoops. When I think of all the things I use a scoop for, I think of ice cream and sugar for my tea. Well, now I'm going to be thinking about how people in the Viking era, all the way to the later post-Tudor times, used to scoop out their own earwax. Yes, an ear scoop was a tiny little brass or copper spoon with a twisted handle that went to a point. The spoon part was used for scooping, while the pointed end was used for pooping. No, I just wanted to say that. It was actually used for cleaning the fingernails of dirt. Thanks, ear scoops. Now I'm never going to look at a spoon the same way again.
Number 6. Hangover mask. Okay, picture this. It's 1946. WW2 is over. Life's getting back to normal. You live in a major city, so you decide to take a night on the town with your friends. Well, one too many Manhattans later and, well, you're not even sure if you're still on the island of Manhattan. You have what the drinkers of the world call a hangover. Let me know in the comments without too much grim detail about your worst hangover. What was your poison of choice? I'm curious. Many men and ladies have found themselves in bad places in the morning after so many drinks, only if there was something to cure said hangover. Well, ladies, you're in luck. The hangover mask aims to cure that. It's basically just a mask with plastic ice cubes. However, I'm gonna get a little personal and say that every hangover I've ever had, I didn't need a face mask. I needed some water. And a bucket since the bathroom was too far away. I don't know why would your face need to be cold? I don't really understand that part. I don't know.
Number 5. Moss. We're halfway through and I'll say it again. I'll remind you all again, I have the utmost respect for you ladies. As a guy doing this list and like writing this list, I mean the things you had to craft back then and then, you know, put, oh my lord. For example, going back to the 10th century, this was a time long before Tampax was ever even a thing. Women were forced to get creative when it came to personal hygiene. They had to just figure it out themselves and literally collect grass or moss, sheepskin lined with cotton. It was mostly moss all the time. You all are absolute troopers. If it wasn't moss, other solutions were small pieces of wood with lint wrapped around it. Number 4. Q-tips. If you haven't heard, Q-tips are not for your ears. Yeah, I thought this was a rumor. Turns out we're all lawbreakers. I use 2 at the same time if I'm in a rush. No, flip them. I'm a vigilante when it comes to Q-tips. Q-tips were invented in 1923 by Leo Gertzensang, right after his wife stuck cotton balls to the end of a toothpick. Kinda sounds like his wife invented Q-tips, but okay, we'll roll with it. From 1923 to 1926, they were named Baby Gays, and then Q-tip Baby Gays, and then finally just Q-tips. It's like a Sweet Baby Ray's, that barbecue sauce. Oh, so good. If they just called it Sweet Ray's, maybe they get rid of the baby, I don't know. You have to try and work it out. I don't know what the bit is, but I'm like, hey, that's a great sauce, and I just thought of that sauce. Baby Ray's, Baby Gays. Back in those days, Q-tips were dipped in boric acid, and they were intended to sterilize wounds. Yeah, and we're just out here like, my eyes roll back every time. I get way too deep. I get too deep where I'm like, oh, it's gone. Huh, there it is, magic, I'm a magician. After this, there were even Q soaps, Q oils, Q creams. It's like Apple, like iPad, iPhone, the other i stuff. So what's this rumor that they're not supposed to be in your ears? What's that about? Well, in 2008, Dennis Fitzgerald brought forward concerns about Q-tips and how they're really pushing earwax into your ear canal, leading to possible infections more than anything. When Cheeseboro Ponds bought the company back in 1962, they added a warning on the box, a warning that we and I gladly still ignore. Just talking about this, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go clean my stuff out. I have Q-tips in my bag, literally, I'm always prepared. Always strapped. Number 3, hair removal trick. In the late 19th century, something called thallium actate started to sweep the nation. It was a hair removal method which even today is the talk of the town. Laser off that peach fuzz for good. Zerp, gone. Thallium was used back in the day, but originally thallium was prescribed for those who suffered with ringworm. But even so, thallium didn't do anything per se about the ringworm, it just caused the patient's hair to fall off. So the ringworm was then easier to find. I'd prefer a haircut if you ask me, but sure, thallium does the trick as well. Eventually, thallium was sold as a cream, a toxic cream. It should never touch your skin at all, and it's a face cream. Are you kidding? This thing was once rat poison as well, and now we're rubbing it around like it's Bath & Body Works Noel cream. It's my favorite cream, the green one. Oh God, gone in 2 days. This was outlawed, thankfully, in the 30s, but it had to get bad pretty first. Number 2, Aqua Tofana. Going back to the 1600s for this one. Also, if you're a murderino, you'll enjoy this bit of dark history. Aqua Tofana was a cosmetic that was sold to women in the early 1630s. It was a cosmetic that doubled as a poison. Yeah, sneaky, right? Some Assassin's Creed going on here. The origins of this deadly cosmetic that was sold and responsible for around like 600 deaths is pretty wild. So back in 1632, 2 women, Francesca Lasarda and Teofana D'Amato, they both created this poison. They worked together and created it so that when their husbands kissed them on the cheek, they would then be poisoned. But eventually Teofana was caught and executed for her crimes, but her recipe carried on through her daughter, Julia Tofana. She took this deadly recipe to Rome and then kept manufacturing it. Inside this cursed cosmetic was arsenic, lead, and belladonna. Colorless, tasteless, and one of the deadliest. And finally coming in at number 1, more ancient birth control. Okay, we kicked this list off catching up with ancient Egyptians and the aid of acacia trees and all that jazz. So I figured we'd end on a ridiculous birth control method from the ancient Roman days. Cyrannus, who was known as a Greek gynecologist back then, his idea for Planned Parenthood was not a good one. It was not a good idea. He wrote that after you bump uglies, in order to prevent pregnancy, the woman must squat and sneeze. First of all, no, not a chance, no, and also, if you're thinking about it, no. Secondly, who can sneeze on demand? I certainly can't. I had a really nice time tonight, cheers. That's not possible, no. Many methods from the past are questionable. In ancient China, it was commonly told that drinking hot mercury could prevent pregnancy. Yeah, leave mercury away from your body, that will literally kill you. Ancient Greeks would drink blacksmith water because they too thought the exposure to lead could prevent getting pregnant. This idea came back around World War I as well. Women were working in factories and actually trying to get exposed to lead. That was the whole idea. Bad. These are pretty dark, so I'll leave you on this one. In the Dark Ages, European women wore amulets made of weasel testicles to magically ward off pregnancies. Poor weasels. Black magic is the worst, isn't it?
Number 10, lead. Way before PETA and proper FDA-regulated testing and distribution of cosmetic products, it was pretty medieval, literally. Like, people were using duck poo and all sorts of things on their head to feel beautiful. Not their fault, they didn't really know, of course. Well, neither did we, apparently. Lead, gasoline, pipes, bullets, we were messing around with this stuff way back.
Egyptians were breaking off lead while sculpting, grinding it up into powders and adding it to salt and dyes to wear as makeup for sun protection way before they knew what the do's and the don'ts were. It actually wasn't until the 18th century when we really started to ask, why is everyone so sick around this stuff all the time? Blindness, mental health disorders, kidney failure, seizures. People in Elizabethan times just teeth rotting, you know, bald like me.
Ah, this new lead powder is delightful, Winston. Merry Christmas, thank you.
Number 9. Mercury. Side note, if you did what we do here on Bumblebee, throw us a thumbs up down below or tell us which deadly products you know of. Or if you grew up in the 1600s, then let us know how you're feeling, you know? Because if you're as mad as a hatter, you might be slowly dying from mercury poisoning. From your head down. Due to the tons of hat makers who were slowly dropping one by one from the 18th to the 19th century. Apparently lots of men's hats at the time were made of animal fur. Fox, rabbit, beaver, whatever you like. Hatters would wash them up, then mercury-based solution or brushed mercury onto the hair to make them felt and stick together. Yeah, pretty well a nice little toxic glue or spray you're just inhaling and wearing all day. Paranoid psychological outbursts, then tooth loss, and then even death. Erethism in a nutshell. That sounds horrible and terrifying and scary, you know? Number 8. Arsenic. When we think about deadly fashion over the years, arsenic is one that comes to mind pretty quick. The Victorians had a complicated love-hate relationship with the chemical due to its beautiful and bright green color it was known for. It was the talk of the town, in 1775 of course, when chemist Carl Wilhelm Scheele mixed sodium carbonate, arsenous oxide, and copper sulfate. Boy oh boy, the green dye that came from that. Famously known as Scheele's green, then we just started to slather it all on our face. Yeah, for the small price of only $1. Basically the precursor to every dermatologist's nightmare, the face cleaner. Dr. James P. Campbell's arsenic complexion wafers. The indications or uses for this product are as follows. Freckles, moth, blackheads, pimples, and other facial disfigurements are permanently removed and a deliciously clear complexion. Also an absolute specific in loss of appetite, low spirits, headaches, and hay fever. Like, was this guy even a doctor? This sounds all made up. Low spirits? Here's some arsenic, just slap it on there. Yeah, your spirits will be high soon enough. Like, what? Number 7. Violet rays. Not gonna lie, sounds like a pretty cool spy name, doesn't it? Violet rays. Nope, just a dangerously weird cosmetic trend we tried like 100 years ago. Yeah, like 20s to the 40s type thing, and it was selling like hotcakes. Basically, a violet ray is an antique medical appliance used in electrotherapy. A disruptive discharge coil with an interrupter to apply a high voltage, high frequency, low current to the human body for therapeutic purposes. Yeah, cured depression, it said. Also in 1922, it was sold to make you more vital, magnetic, and compelling. Yeah, just walking around like Uncle Fester from the Addams Family, slowly electrocuting yourself day after day. Whatever it did or didn't do, recalls and lawsuits over this thing led to the FDA banning these. The last manufacturer of violet rays devices in the US was Master Electric, but in 1951 the company was sued and, yeah, stopped pretty quickly. I can hear it now. Some people are dull, drab, uninteresting, and sickly. Which are you? With a new Virex, you can shock yourself into beauty. Today! Like an old Fallout commercial? Like, that's terrifying. Number 6. Celluloid. Celluloids are a class of materials produced by mixing nitrocellulose and camphor, often with dyes to form objects. Common celluloids we know are ping pong balls, instruments, office equipment, guitar picks, and famously throughout the ages, combs. Pretty well the first ever plastic, you know? Yeah, see the problem with this stuff is that when it heats up, it becomes super flammable and can even tend to explode. Yeah, just ripping a solo when it catches fire on stage. I mean, it sounds pretty sick, right? Well, when a comb explodes in your hair, exploding with little shrapnel pieces, which was the case for like the last 300 years, people become a tiny bit concerned. Flammable, you know? Like the stuff they used in old movie reels. Like what magicians use for the fire trick, you know? Like that, on your head. The sneaky thing is celluloid ages. Yeah, the camphor molecules become more pressurized until they crystallize and catch fire or even release nitrogen gases like nitrous oxide into the air. Ton of fires, deadly stuff, you know. No good, no good.
Number 5. Gorad's cream. Gorad's Oriental Cream hit the market back in 1936. This cream was supposed to, freshen up your skin, make you look lighter, younger, tighter, whatever Paul Rudd's doing. But instead, this skin cream had one user ending up in a book that's very, Chamber of Horror styles. Just what not to do in terms of cosmetics and bad stuff. This magic ingredient was meant to magically make you beautiful, and it had some magic mercury inside the product. It was horrible. Not something you want on your face ever. Mercury, no fun. I don't recommend. 0 out of 5, my friend. The results were haunting. This woman had soon developed black gums, her teeth loosened, and dark rings appeared around her eyes. It was haunting. It's called mercury poisoning, and it's not fun. Number 4, fluoroscope. A proper measurement of the foot is the first step to a healthier lifestyle. If you're off by half a size in either width or length, you're setting yourself up for future problems. So when x-rays started being used to properly measure up family foot sizes in shoe stores, well, it sounded like an ideal start to an otherwise exhausting process. I worked in a shoe store while I was in school, so I get it, The amount of stinky feet I've had to measure up with that really cold metal thing, no thank you. Gross. So in comes this new fluoroscope technology, right? Measure your feet, but make it cool, make it futuristic, right? Make it technological. This began in the 1920s. Everybody used these things. It was completely normal. And by the time the 40s rolled around, scientists were now concerned about the radiation level emitting off these machines, and eventually they too were banned. They're also really intimidating to look at. There's a speedometer on it, for some reason. It doesn't look like an easy thing. It looks scary. It looks like a saw trap, you know what I mean? Number 3. Thallium. In the late 19th century, something called thallium acetate started to sweep the nation. It was a hair removal method, but originally thallium was prescribed for those who suffered with ringworm. Just in case you got both, here you go. So yeah, now we're getting a little concerned historically. Even so, thallium didn't do anything about said ringworm. That in itself was already a failed product. It made patients' hair fall off. So the ringworm was easier to find. Doesn't actually help the issue, just makes it easier to find, I guess. So I guess that's helpful, I don't know, it's still bad. Eventually, thallium was sold by itself as a cream. It's very toxic, it should never touch your skin. This was once rat poison, historically, and then humans were then rubbing it around on their heads casually. That's insane. This was outlawed in the 30s, thankfully, but the fact that this was ever sold in history just baffles me. This whole list baffles me. Number 2. Aqua Tofana. I love this one. Going back to the 1600s for this one. If you're a murderino, you know this one already. It's a good one. Aqua Tofana was a cosmetic that was sold to women back in the early 1600s. It was a cosmetic that also doubled down as a poison. Yeah, some naughty stuff going on here. The origins of said deadly cosmetic that was sold and, responsible for around 600 deaths is pretty wild. Back in 1632, 2 women, Francesca Lasarda and Tapiana D'Amato, they both created this poison so that when their husbands kissed them on the cheek, they would then be poisoned from the cream that they put on, right? This was a time where women were treated horribly, right? Even worse than now. You know what I mean? I was gonna say a time where women had less rights, but I'm we're actually getting worse historically, so who knows? But eventually, Tofana was caught and executed for her crimes, but her recipe lived on. Her recipe carried on through her daughter, Julia Tofana. She took this deadly recipe to Rome and kept manufacturing it. Pretty badass, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, obviously it's horrible in so many ways, but I'm yeah. That's pretty smart, I think. If she was a villain in a Sherlock Holmes movie, we'd love her. Know what I mean? Inside this cursed cosmetic was arsenic, lead, and belladonna. Colorless, tasteless, and one of the deadliest. And finally, number 1, Vita Radium Suppositories. Hey, my favorite one historically. This is great. With guaranteed real radium, there we go, just in case you got that fake stuff, this is the real good stuff. The Home Products Company of Denver, Colorado came out with these suppositories, back in 1930. And the way that they marketed these things is so funny, and I have to end the list on it. It's one of my favorites ever. The company reaches out and says, "Weak, discouraged men. If you are showing signs of slowing up in your actions and duties, perhaps if you have begun to lose your charm, your personality, your normal manly attitude, then certainly you want to stage a comeback. The man who has lost these precious attributes of youth knows how to appreciate their value. He realizes that happiness depends on his ability to perform the duties of a real man. Sweet, glorious pleasures of life. Nature intended that you should enjoy them. Now is the time to act." And then these real men put radiated suppositories up their real. How funny is that? They're like, "Are you a man? Yeah. Do you want to get back to business? Yeah. All right. Bend over." It's so stupid. This is so dangerous also, obviously, but like, it's so funny that they're so aggressive with this ad. The initial goal here was to, of course, feel better and, you know, feel like a real manly man again. But instead of waking up feeling refreshed, users eventually stopped waking up altogether.
Number 10, not bathing. Let's start off strong. So obviously hindsight is 2020. We know a lot more about personal hygiene now than we did, you know, then and as well in like middle school, because high school locker rooms, what the heck. Without the knowledge of germs and disease, not bathing seemed like the logical next step for a lot of people, even though it made you smelly as all heck. When the Pilgrims arrived in Native America on the Mayflower, the indigenous tribes often referred to their horrid smell. An account from a member of the Patuxet Nation even tried to convince them to start washing themselves. They were like, come on guys, it's enough. They washed their hands and faces, but they rarely washed their whole bodies. Though they believed cleanliness was next to godliness, that didn't necessarily mean they needed water to do it. They believed that should they submerge themselves, they risked disease. This could be because they dumped their daily duties into the water, so you know, that's likely. So instead they took dry baths where they wiped themselves down with a dry cloth, but it didn't really help much.
Number 9, bedpans. It's always the worst when you get tucked in at night, you start to fall asleep, you're starting to doze off, and then you realize you need to pee. It's the worst. You gotta get up, walk down that long, scary hallway, blind yourself for 2 minutes, and then get cozy all over again. Well, in the Middle Ages, you would just toss your full bedpan out the window. Easy peasy, heads up, oh, oops. It's so gross. Or sometimes, if you were feeling a little lazy, this was also common, you would use the bedpan and then just slide it back underneath your bed and go right back to sleep. If anybody ever gives you shit for having cups in your room, show them this video, show them this history. You're fine, you're not that bad. Back in those days, we weren't exactly aware of the disease that we threw out the window as well. Most of the time it was number 1, so the rain could just, you know, wash away the yuck, but these buildings were only one story. It wasn't going anywhere. If you were tossing anything out, you'd be stepping over it the next morning on the way to, you know, the public execution or whatever.
Number 8, a lead facial. Today, if you have tan skin from that hot summer glow, it implies that you have had enough leisure time to acquire such a hue. Getting a tan is the thing unless you're like me and slather on that sunscreen for health, and so you look like a newborn baby when you're 80 years old. However, it was the opposite in times of old. If you had sun-kissed skin, that meant you worked hard in the fields, a symbol that you were a peasant or of lower class. If you were rich, you tended to have much paler skin, therefore implying your status, but simply staying out of the sun wasn't enough. Elizabeth I used a combination of lead and vinegar to achieve a bright white complexion and to hide her smallpox scars. The compound was called ceruse. This tradition even goes all the way back to women in the Roman Empire. A well-known actress named Kitty Fisher was also said to have died from the material as it slowly poisoned her with daily use. The material would add blisters, so she'd put more on to cover it up. Same with Elizabeth, and yes, slowly you understand.
Number 7, Victorian Laundry Day. You spilled some mustard on your shirt today, that stain will be gone by the time you get home. We're pretty advanced when it comes to quick stain removal today, but like the Romans, which I'll talk about later, it wasn't always smooth sailing. Take the 18th century for example. When Laundry Day came around, it was an event. It was like an ultimate chore. They had to take daylight in consideration and plan their washing days, as in more than one. The Victorian era was exhausting. They would soak their clothes overnight, then the next day would be spent soaping them up, boiling them, rinsing, soaping again, rinsing again, maybe soap one more in case, you know, there's too much pee-pee, and then rinsed another time, wrung out, mangled, laid out to dry. Hence the sunlight timing, starched and then slowly ironed. Cut to today, we have to encourage adults not to eat Tide Pods or drink bleach. We'll get there, maybe, I don't know.
Number 6, wigs and makeup. When you don't bathe and are overall just smelly, you're gonna need to do something to cover up whatever the heck is building up beneath that bodice. Wigs would have never become as popular if it weren't for a very specific venereal disease called syphilis. By 1580, the STD was the worst epidemic since the Black Death. Patients clogged hospitals, and without antibiotics or protection, things got pretty nasty. Sores, blindness, rashes, dementia, and patchy hair loss. Thus, for the sake of keeping up appearances, wigs came into fashion. Also the makeup I mentioned before. Balding was a huge humiliation, so they made wigs out of horse, goat, and or human hair. They also cover the wigs in powdered, scented with lavender or orange to hide any foul odors, and as we suspect, there were a lot of foul odors. They weren't stylish until 1655 when the King of France started losing his hair and had 48 wigs made. Then 5 years later his cousin Charles II of England joined the train, and suddenly powdered wigs became like the next best thing. Wigs did help curb the lice problem though, because the human hair had to be shaved in order for the perruques to be worn, but the wigs themselves had to be deloused often. And yeah.
Clear Craze was a nightmarish 90s product fad that brought up number 5, Crystal Pepsi. This soft drink was made by PepsiCo and initially released in Canada and the United States from 1992 to 1994. As a result of the 1980s to 90s clear craze, as I mentioned, this craze started because the idea of a clear product was a pure product. As we know, this is 100% not true, but Crystal Pepsi was one of the many clear and colorless products released by manufacturers such as Soapsoft, Miller Brewing Company, Palmolive, and more. In Crystal Pepsi's first year, it captured 1 full percentage point of US soft drink sales, or approximately 474 million, the equivalent to 889 million in 2021. By late 1993, the manufacturer discontinued the beverage. In 2013, a video of Kevin Strahl drinking a vintage 90s bottle of Crystal Pepsi went viral. This video alone sparked tens of thousands of petition signatures to bring the drink back. Even billboards were erected to demand for it. This interest from this campaign led to an official response to Strahl by PepsiCo on June 8th of 2015, commenting on the YouTuber and his fans' commitment and enthusiasm with the teaser of the drink's return. And so in mid-2016, Crystal Pepsi was released across the United States and Canada, promoted with a retro-style website and marketing video. The funny thing is, it tastes like normal Pepsi. You may not remember the item, but your ankles will. Number 4, the Skip It. Whew, my shins hurt just thinking about it. During its initial release in the 1980s, the Skip It toy became a commercial success through its advertisements on daytime TV such as Nickelodeon and Boomerang, as well as other children's programming. It was based off of the toy of the exact same concept, the Lemon Twist from the 1960s. A Skip It is a weighted plastic ball that ties around the ankle. A stretch of cord in between your ankle and the ball is skipped over as you swing the weighted ball around 360 in a circle. Oh yeah, those suckers could whip back at any second and give you a bruise that even a Razor scooter could be envious of giving. Sometimes they were super fancy, making noise, having cool designs, or flashing lights, things of that nature, for the cool kids of 4th grade. Time magazine included it in their 100 greatest toys ever, and it's actually still available for purchase today, but considerably less common and less popular. The equivalent of psychedelic for a preteen was Lisa Frank items. Number 3. Girls growing up in the 90s had access to what may be history's most vibrant and eclectic eras of fashion and baubles. Baby Fat, the Delia's catalog, Wet Seal low-rise jeans, and of course, Lisa Frank. Their endless products included everything from stickers and 3-ring binders to jewelry and clothing. All featured the iconic brand signature aesthetic of cute cuddly animals in bright colors and patterns amidst black color blocking. Lisa Frank herself was only 24 when she incorporated her name into a franchise, and it's in the same year that she received its first $1 million order from Spencer's Gifts, aka she was a smash success from day one. Lisa Frank's popularity took a dip with the rise of digital era. The company receded into smaller collaborations and was mostly underground, but strongly resurged in the 2010s. Since there's been brand collabs with Crocs, Urban Outfitters, BlendJet, Morph Makeup, and even Pillsbury Sugar Cookies. If you've managed to hold on to some of your Lisa Frank items from childhood, you'd be surprised to know that some of them have gone up in value and are worth a pretty penny now. Number 2 is a trip to Orbitz and the bathroom, because this can't have been good for your stomach. This is for my Canadians. The 90s was a creative era for many things, especially beverages. Companies explored unforeseen parameters of flavor and aesthetics, and so we see the Orbitz soda not soda beverage thing. It was a Canadian beverage and it was short-lived, both coming out and being discontinued in the same year of 1997. It's a clear drink, clear craze things, that's chock full of sugar and had bright colored gelatin balls suspended and floating mysteriously. It was fruit flavored, but I'll be honest, these are the last flavors I expected to read when I was researching this product. Blackcurrant berry, blueberry, melon, strawberry, pineapple, banana, cherry, coconut, raspberry, citrus, and vanilla orange. That is intense. No wonder these drinks were short-lived because of their overwhelming flavor combinations and weird floating orbs. Lava lamps are fun to look at, but no one wants to drink one. But if you do, hit eBay. You can still find unsealed Orbitz drinks drinks there, running you an average of $50 a bottle. And number 1 is the Windows Start Maze Screensaver. Ah yes, the back rooms. Maybe this screensaver is why so many of us find a fascination with that concept. Anyways, if you had a desktop computer in or around the time of 1995 and 6, you're likely familiar with this endless maze screensaver. While the graphics may be painful to look at now, they were top-notch visual at the time, like a 4D roller coaster. The default setting for the maze is a textured with brick walls and a wood floor and an asbestos tile ceiling. Users can customize these textures, swapping them out for animated psychedelic patterns in later versions, or maybe create their own custom textures. The walls are lined with art, some random plants, and statues. The maze is randomly generated each time, with the player navigating it in first person, spawning in front of a floating start button. After starting, it automatically traverses using the right hand rule, which will guarantee the maze will eventually be solved because all randomly generated mazes are simply connected. This bizarre maze was perfect to zone out to for hours, or be the basis of creepypastas and spooky stories. I'm sure many 90s kids watching have their own memories of this creepy yet neat screensaver.
Kicking off the list at number 10, creme bleu. It's the 1930s, you're looking for a way to get rid of those upper lip hairs. Well, creme bleu promises to have your back. They actually promise to have your armpits as well. Yeah, armpit hair and upper lip hair. Gone. For good, you say? Wow, that sounds absolutely lovely. Just don't read the fine print, don't flip it and zoom in. Don't zoom in. This cream was applied to the upper lip, but side effects caused hair loss all over your body. And sometimes users would suffer from paralysis. It was on the market for $10, which back in the 1930s, that's a lot. Like for hair removal cream, that's a lot. Those are like Beats headphones? What is this? The Journal of the American Medical Association called this product out as viciously dangerous. Rightfully so, and those who suffered from those harsh side effects collectively sued the company into bankruptcy come 1932. The silent killer here in the cream was thallium, commonly used as rat poison. That ought to do it. Number 9, ancient birth control. Although birth control today is easier than in ancient times, it's still a chore. It's routine, it's something you have to keep track of daily, and things go wrong if you don't and lose track. There's a plethora of side effects. You have to take fake ones just so your body, your hormones are all over the place. You can get cancer from these, you can get blood clots potentially. There's very little research on long-term effects for birth control pills. And also, I'm speaking not from experience. There's no birth control pill for guys. This is wildly unfair. I have the most respect. These pills mess you up. My friends will tell me their side effects and I can't believe it. You're all troopers. Ancient Egyptians, their method of ancient birth control was by mixing acacia fruit with honey and ground dates. This paste would then be used directly, and believe it or not, it was rather effective. Acacia gum ferments and then turns into lactic acid, which can prevent pregnancy. Not all of these ancient methods worked like this. There's another that's really bizarre, and I'll save that for the end. It's absolutely insane. I can't believe it. We'll ease our way there, we'll start nice. Number 8, lash lure. Turning the calendars back to 1933, the year FM radios and drive-in movie theaters were introduced, and as well as the horrifying and deadly mascara, lash lure. This 1930s cosmetic contained a chemical, p-phenylenediamine. That's how you know it's bad, when you can't even pronounce the thing. This mascara left blisters all over your face, your eyelids, the whole thing. It was really bad. There was eventually a death in 1933. One woman sadly developed an infection, a bacterial infection, and then passed away. It was so bad that later that year, her before and after photos were used in an FDA display titled The Chamber of Horrors. It was a horrible incident, but a good way to get the attention from higher-ups, so something like this never happens again. Lash lure was then the first product in history that was removed from stores entirely, so it worked. We're in the middle of something kind of similar now, I think. Cigarette packages have those horrible side effects to smoking right there on the packaging. The girl with the face. Could we see the day smoking is outlawed? I don't know, I feel like we're close. It's caused quite a few more deaths than lash lure, that's all I'm saying. Number 7, bad toothpaste. Doramad toothpaste was advertised in the 1920s. The ad shows a blonde lady with a lovely smile. Some would even say glowing. Right below reads Doramad radioactive toothpaste. Radioactive toothpaste. That sounds bad. I've played enough Fallout to know that radioactive toothpaste probably isn't a great product, especially to put in and around your mouth. It even loudly advertises its radioactive ingredients. Can you imagine this? Increase the defense of teeth and gums. The cells are loaded with new life energy. Good gums don't bleed, they actually glow. That last one I made up, but you can't tell, right? How insane is this? This secret ingredient to shinier smiles and brighter futures was thorium. The god of thunder does not brush with thorium. He uses it to polish his hammer. Yeah, it's very toxic. Number 6, Garreth's cream. Once advertised as a magic beautifier, doesn't that sound like a neat time? Garreth's Oriental Cream hit the market back in 1936. This cream was supposed to freshen up your skin, make you look lighter, younger, whatever Paul Rudd's doing, whatever his secret is, we're still trying to figure that one out. That sort of thing. But instead, this skin cream had one user ending up in a book that's very Chamber of Horrors style. This magic ingredient that was meant to magically make you beautiful had some magic mercury in it. Not something you want on your face, yeah, at all. The results were haunting. This woman had soon developed black gums, her teeth loosened, and dark rings appeared around her eyes and even her neck. Mercury poisoning is not fun.
Number 5, bacon products. Who doesn't love bacon, right? Bacon is delicious. Bacon is a delicious meat that can be enjoyed for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Personally, there was nothing like waking up on a Saturday morning as a kid to play some GameCube and eat bacon and eggs, my favorite. I was a tubby kid and I was easy to impress. However, while bacon may not be the king of the breakfast table, it is the bootleg flavor of fragrance and the non-food market. It seems every time there's a store, gift shop, or novelties being sold, a bacon flavored, scented, or themed product is there for men. And it's not far behind. Because yes, we are tough and rugged, and we eat meat because we're cowboys. So that also means we want breath mints that are artificially bacon flavored, right? No, we don't. They taste horrible. It's awful. No one wants that. Nobody wants that. Number 4, bath bomb. Call it genius marketing, crazy society, or people wasting money, but a lot of hygiene beauty products that women purchase, men do too. They just gotta repackage it and inject it with 300 cc's of testosterone because men. Take the hand grenade bath bomb for instance. Taking bath bomb to a whole other level. Yes, the one I saw while researching was very colorful and it looked like it had a fruity scent, but it was shaped like a hand grenade from the Second World War. No way an adult man would fall for that, right? Pfft, no! Chris, you see my rubber ducky? Number 3, the man bun. Honestly, I don't mind this trend. I actually think it looks good. Certainly better than the mullets of the 90s. There's no way you can tell me mullets look better than man buns. You just can't. The man buns are actually somewhat organized, especially if dudes grow them out and maintain them. However, what is strange to me is the man bun add-on. Yeah, it's like a man bun extension. You just like a clip-on. Basically, look like the guy who plays Wonderwall at every party for the low price of $19.99. I can't be dissing too much though, because I wore a clip-on tie till the 9th grade. But the girls thought I was cute? I think so. Number 2, gendered products. Another broad stroke here, but when things get placed into categories, there's always 2 colors that get used. Pink for girls, blue for boys. While I'm not sure whether colors are actually masculine or feminine themselves, it has been hardwired into most of us, that's just how it goes. Anything plastered in blue or male-like imagery, it's what's meant for men. I, however, as a kid had an absolute 5-head play. To protect my valuables from thieves and villains in the night, I always chose something that was girl-themed, pink, or something a boy wouldn't pick, as I thought if presented with my stolen items, I could always identify them since only a boy would choose girly stuff. From my Nintendo DS to my notebooks and honestly everything in between. Hot pink was in, and Chetty made it work. I thought the plan was foolproof. I never really thought though what would happen if a girl took my stuff though. I didn't really think that wouldn't work for that, would it? No, it wouldn't. Number 1, wine in a can. This one is just so silly to me, and for any wine connoisseurs out there, take this with a grain of salt. I'm no sommelier, but I enjoyed the odd glass of wine, even if it comes from a box. I always thought the wine glass was elegant, higher class, but that doesn't mean you have to be higher class to drink it, or be less masculine. Well, now there's wine in a can for men, because we can't have flimsy glasses. We'll break those glasses because we're so strong. Oh yeah. I just can't imagine wine in a can tasting good. It has to be worse than wine in a box, right? Let me know in the comments, guys. I'm curious. What do you like to drink? Let Chetty know. I'm curious. I'd love to hear.
Kicking off the list at number 10, eyelash extensions. Right off the hop, here we go. Nowadays, beauty products are safer. They're made in a cleaner way. We're going the right direction when it comes to putting things on or around our eyes. You know, thank God. But back in the late 1800s, we weren't quite there yet. No, not even close. This right here is an ad from the Independent Journal back from 1899. And it says, if your eyes are unattractive, you may make them irresistible by transplanting the hair. just the hair. Transplanted eyelashes and eyebrows are the latest things in the way of personal adornment. An ordinary fine needle is threaded with a long hair, generally taken from the head of the person to be operated upon. Doink! Oh, let's do a little gray, why not? Haha. Yeah, they would use a white illicit substance that's illegal that I can't say on YouTube. They would rub that around your eyes just to numb the eyelids. How stupid is that? The doctor would then thread your hair through the lids and then cut them down so they're even. Yeah, I thought peeling an eyelash off at the end of the night was bad. I would see that a lot, one of those. This is way worse, never doing this. Number 9, Doramad toothpaste. Doramad, are you mad? That should have been the slogan. Are you mad? The worst toothpaste to ever exist. Doramad, yeah, that was the one. Back in the 40s, people were brushing their teeth with radiation. Yeah, even on the actual tube, it says its radioactive ingredients increase the defense of teeth and gums. I can feel it working already. I'm gonna throw up. Doctors hate this one trick. Here we go. The tube continues to, well, lie to its users, saying the radioactive cells are loaded with new life energy. The bacteria is then hindered in their destroying effect, leaving behind a pleasant and mild, refreshing taste. Awesome. Yeah, I broke both my front teeth in half when I was younger. If only I had Doramad. I would have just bounced off the pavement and then just kept running. I would have had invincible teeth. Yeah, this toothpaste did not work and it did not stick around. It was horrible for humans. Its radioactivity was low in comparison, but like, its radioactivity was low. I can't even say that. Imagine this coming out now, no way. And just remember, good gums don't bleed, they glow. Doramad. Number 8, radioactive water. Yeah, you thought Dasani water was bad? Okay, just wait, buckle up. Back in 1932, Eben Byers, a 41-year-old steel manufacturer and golf pro, heyo, met his fate in a horrible way. In a constant battle with arm pain and fatigue, Byers was told to drink radioactive water by his physiotherapist. And he was like, okay, you bet. Physiotherapist, anything you say, doctor. He said that drinking this product would help with the golfer's arm pain and fatigue. Magically, okay. Each of these bottles contained 1 microgram of radium and 1 microgram of thorium. Yeah, the guy would drink radiation after every meal and subsequently lost weight, but sadly, he also developed bone necrosis in his jaw. Yeah, Dasani doesn't sound too bad now, does it? Number 7, Thoradia. If somebody told you that your face was glowing back in the late 30s, that would be the highest compliment. Now, it's got a little Edward Cullen vampire vibes. Little different now, but still nice. Thoradia was a beauty product company that made radioactive creams, powders, lipsticks, anything to get your glowy glam on, they made. And they made it in a horrible way. They made thorium and radium-lead products to tone facial tissues and remove wrinkles. How insane does that sound coming out of my mouth? Look at cosmetic companies now. Imagine Thoradia just dropping on shelves casually. The product was doing so well that it circulated in Italy, Portugal, Romania, Egypt, Belgium, France, you name it, it was all over the world. It wasn't until 1937 until the French government caught on to these horrible side effects, thank God, and then they pulled it from shelves. Imagine seeing a friend and they're literally glowing, vampire for sure, or radiation. Number 6, the Trico system. I was talking about plucking my unibrow the other day. I was really going in on that, so we had to throw this one in. Instead of plucking your eyebrows in the late 1920s, you would ideally want to use the Trico system to remove any, unwanted hair. This device was booming back in the 20s. Hair salons had to have this system. And come 1925, there were over 75 Trico systems installed in beauty shops all around. And what you would do is you would sit at this large desk, face a small window for a few minutes, and boom, just like that, hair gone. Yeah, just 20 quick visits to your local Trico system and then boom, then your hair is magically gone. Just 20 visits, easy, you have the time of the day, right? Their trick here was X-ray technology directly on their face. Not a bright idea. So 4 years later, in 1929, Trico system side effects were so well known, being ulcers, carcinoma, keratosis, death. This was not the solution you wanted, so again, pulled from storage.
Number 5, harmful products. Today, most folks are careful about what they put into them, but back in the day, not so much. When the war started, the military needed a lot of resources, like previously mentioned, and companies had to come up with alternatives. But when coming up with an alternative, testing may not have been done, or at least thorough. That means whatever they made could prove to be harmful to the user, like the radium girls from the First World War. Refer to my other video. My point is, this is a time when products that contain cyanide are sold on store shelves, so anything is possible, which is just messed up. Watch what you're doing. Number 4, good smoke. After a long day of receiving artillery and gunfire from German positions, a GI may not be looking himself, or probably doesn't feel himself either. Early stages of PTSD forming, most likely. So what can I do to improve this mood, they ask? And appearance? Why, smoke a cigarette, of course. What else? Smoking culture was huge back then, and it wasn't seen by the public as a health risk. Lucky Strike cigarettes were packaged with soldiers' rations. They were giving out cigarettes. It's just wild. You open up a can, there's my ham, there's my crackers, there's my smokes, I'm good to go. Number 3, nothing left. Unfortunately for a lot of cities in Europe, they got destroyed by bombing raids. Berlin in particular took a pounding. Pictures of the rubbled out city make you wonder how they ever rebuilt it. With that in mind, you can just imagine how beauty and fashion were the last thing on people's minds. Things like food, water, shelter, and fearing the sound of air raid sirens were more of a top priority. 1945 Berlin is not the place to head on down to the department store and pick out a new dress. You wear whatever you can find, and that's about it. Number 2, strapped up. Bang bang, bang bang. If you found yourself to be one of the lovely ladies of the French Resistance, or really any resistance against the Germans during World War II, there was a good chance that you never left the house without your favorite accessory, ladies. Yes, that's right. A firearm. Across many nations in Europe, secret underground rebellions were being organized to overthrow their invaders. Allied forces even airdropped simple-made firearms to resistance so they could get access to a better one with the one they dropped. It makes sense. How very James Bond of you. Oh yes. Behave. Number 1, clean nails. Keep your nails clean and short. It's something I love to do. My nails get too long, I go straight for the pair of clippers. Having clipped nails and less hair was a part of every GI's routine. Besides looking dapper in a trench, the real reason was in case of chemical weapons and any toxic residue getting caught in beards, hair, nails, just anything like that really. Would that work? I mean, sorta, but just not being exposed would be a lot better of an option. And now, we're gonna get back to some comments that you guys made before, some comments that I really liked. And we're gonna get back, we're gonna do some interaction with Chetty. Linda MacArthur said, my grandma is the youngest of 22 children. I believe it was from my Victorian era video when I was talking, I asked you guys how many kids your grandparents, siblings they had, how many siblings your grandparents had. Yeah, that's absolutely just, I told you, that's the way it goes. For some reason, there was no, I don't know if I can say birth control, but there's no birth control, there's no, you know, people just going, and that's what happens. That's the byproduct of that. Michaela said, McDonald's is still a villain in everyone's story. No, I love McDonald's. They're the best. I hope they sponsor everything I do in life. I love McDonald's. I hope they cater my wedding. Princess Shadowstorm said, I'm not much of a gamer, but I'd love to see Chetty and Taylor battle it out in any game. Oh, Taylor, did you hear that, buddy? That sounds like a challenge, my guy. Maybe you and I should start doing verses or something. Maybe a channel where we play video games or something. That'd be kind of cool. What do you guys think about that? That's kind of a good idea. I don't know. And Curse Ravioli said, I love the name. I love that name. I came for the Chetty, and I'll stay for the content. Keep up the good work, Chetty. First of all, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yes. And I'm glad you enjoy the content, and I'm glad you enjoy me. If you want to see more of me, you can check out my socials down below.
And to start us at number 10 is the car phone. Our first dabbling with mobile phones ironically came in the form of our vehicles. These funky and clunky phones could be carried in briefcases that were to be stored and charged in the car, or were straight up just built into it. This could be in the center or backseat console, the dashboard, the driver's side door, endless possibilities. The car phone was at its best and most high-tech during the 90s and was definitely part of the very important technology for very important people fad and a mindset. If you weren't born to see them in person, perhaps you've seen them in 90s film and TV hits, shows like Seinfeld and Friends, and iconic scenes like in Die Hard when Bruce Willis is saving the day and they flip to a shot of Argyle oblivious of the chaos above whilst talking to his sweet honey on the car phone. I hope you have fast reflexes because Bop It is number 9. Originally invented in 1996, this handheld toy quickly became worldwide success and a popular toy, models of it winning numerous awards for electronic toys and games. To jog your memory or teach some new folks, the original game of Bop It has 3 main features. Bop It was a button on the side, Twist It was a twisting handle on the lower left side, and Pull It was a pullable handle near the top. The device would call out one of the 3 instructions, increasing the speed as the game progressed. Whenever the player fumbled or missed the call, the game was over. Players' scores are announced announced at the end of the gameplay with a cipher in which different tones represent different point values, and the maximum possible score is 100. The 3 were spread enough to require quick reflex and have 3 game modes: solo play, multiplayer play, and beat bopping, which followed a musical tone. This game was the first of what was later to become a series of Bop It games relying on the same set of basic patents. For number 8, it's the Palm Pilot. Let's take a second and remember this pre-cell phone, the grandmother of handheld digital devices. PDAs, personal digital assistants for my young people, were truly beloved of the 90s, but none more so than the Palm Pilot, which took everyone by storm. A businessman glued to his Palm Pilot was an ongoing cliche in 90s movies. They could check emails, work on documents, they had little games on them as well. They came with a writing stylus that would only work on the screen of that device. Convenient until you lost yours and had to go out and buy a new one. Yes, they truly had all the features of a futuristic parking meter with its unlit display and few hundred kilobytes. This device is laughable if you have an 8GB phone because you have the memory storage of 16,000 Palm Pilots. The toy that could get us all out of absences at school, Talk Boy, is number 7, the perfect symbol of 90s tech. Clunky, obsolete, tied to a beloved 90s franchise and featuring a payoff that, for the time, was an amazing novelty. It was seriously just a video cassette in a little player upon which you could record and play back your own voice or somebody else's. No part of that setup is still relevant whatsoever. The audio recorder only had 2 features: speeding and slowing down recorded vocals. But that was good enough to pull off a few unbelievable pranks, pretend to be your parents on the phone, or mess with some bullies, as was shown to us all by Kevin McAllister in Home Alone 2. The second this chunky device was used in the hit franchise, it had kids everywhere clamoring to have one. And lest we forget, the Talk Boy also had a cooler, sleeker cousin, the Yak Back, which could only record a few seconds of sound and play it forward or backwards like an auditory Vine or TikTok of 90s audio toys. Number 6, annoying but efficient, beepers. Also called pagers, these devices were fantastic for reaching someone right away. How they worked was a call or email is forwarded to the pager, a message comes in with a number to call. Although hardly used anymore, pagers remain one of the most reliable forms of communication available and are still widely used by doctors, as there's no delay in delivery, no network overload, and no dead zones. They had to be reachable at all times, but only in an archaic, indirect way. Someone pages you, and then you have to go find a telephone and call them back. You also definitely kept a list of all the codes you needed to understand in the messages you received in your back pocket. That's why when you've watched medical dramas, there's always that scene of a doctor being paged, checking the mini radio frequency device, and then suddenly running away. If someone had a pager, they were usually important or needed it for work, but most people had them by the late 90s. People used to say beep me, and it was a really cool thing. Meanwhile, today's grade schoolers are walking around with fully functioning iPhones like they're expecting a call from Rihanna at any second.
Number 5, urine deep. Turns out we used pee for a lot of things back in the day, and today we still do? Question mark? The Romans used urine to wash their clothes, and even more impressive / gross is the fact that they used urine to help with inflammation, burns, or skin disease. Yeah, pee was the #1 trick. Get it? #1. Okay, we'll move on. Best way to whiten that smile was not a Crest white strip, but rather a facial mask dipped in the mellow yellow. Just pee. Because it's so gross. We mentioned on this channel before that Gladiator sweat was once bottled and then sold. Well, their pee as well was sold as this beauty product. Clean out those pores with a drop of Igor. Get it while it's hot, folks. This is extremely gross, obviously, but it does make sense. The ammonia in urine kicks stains away for good. That's why they would wash their clothes in the same way. Now we get it. History. Gross.
Number 4, rush plants. Today we use chic shag carpets that, really tie the room together. Sips White Russian. But back in the olden times, they used something called the rush plant to pad their floors. But the thing was, this layer of dense plant material was a breeding ground for nits, ticks, and other creepy crawlies. It was a really unsanitary situation, but what else were you supposed to do? However, this kind of flooring made them vulnerable to disease and infection. The reason being, as these floors would not be renewed for sometimes 20 years, the bottom layer, left undisturbed, would accumulate a lot of really gross stuff like animal droppings, feces, the piece of grizzle you dropped that one time, fish scraps, whatever. So it was just not, it was like basically a swamp down there.
Number 3, royal bum. The groom of the stool is a little bit different than the groom of a wedding. It was perhaps one of the worst jobs to have, but But, pun intended, it's one of the most important roles. The groom of the king's close stool was a position created during King Henry VIII's reign. Their job was to wipe the king's butt. And if that doesn't sound horrible enough, this poor lad would carry the king's stool with him, like on his back, like a JanSport, and then monitor the king's meal times, and they would plan their day around when they thought the king would take a shit. I would be so anxious if a guy wearing a box toilet was just hanging out near me. He's like, hey, you feeling alright, boss? You good? You feeling full? That was a lot of bread earlier. You sure? Alright, take 5. Just, I don't know. Just take a look. I don't know. I'll let you be. Just jump. You must be thinking, what poor soul got stuck with this job? Well, this job was an honor, my friend. Sons of noblemen were awarded this role. You would get pretty close to the king, I mean, obviously, but as time went on, these grooms became secretaries to that king. Pretty good upgrade. Eventually, getting a higher pay and benefits. Yeah, I would hope so. Even the king's walking, talking toilet gets dental back in the day. How neat is that?
Number 2, eagle dung. I'm honestly not even sure what to say about this. You know, you have to have some kind of magnificent conviction to be like, I have no reason to believe this is true, but I am 110% sure that bird dung will fix it. Like, that's some kind of confidence I don't think I'm ever gonna get. Eagle dung was a common substance found in the birthing room of all places. It was often rubbed in to alleviate the pain, most often accompanied by rose water, because who wants to smell that while they're bringing life to the world? No one, obviously. Obviously that didn't work, and the bacteria from the stuff probably didn't help their recovery either. They also used to place amulets and charms on the stomach to speed contractions and put coriander on the thighs. Coriander was believed to attract the baby out of the womb. A risky move considering people either love or hate coriander. There's no in between. It either tastes like soap or it's the best thing you've ever had. If the delivery was proving difficult, they would open cupboard doors, untie hair, and perform other metaphors to help the mother deliver easier. But it's the eagle dung that really gets me here, folks. I have no excuse for them.
Number 1, the dirty dead. What feels like a never-ending maze, the catacombs under Paris stretch for hundreds of miles. They're a big tourist attraction obviously today. Horror movies have been made about these catacombs, just these walls of skulls, but where did they come from? Why were they put there? Also, how bad was that smell? See, originally the tunnels were built for Paris stone mines, but near the end of the 18th century its purpose started to shift. Cemeteries were starting to pile up, and I mean that in a literal sense, disgusting. There was nowhere to put all these bodies, and everybody else started to get sick because of them, because they were breathing in, you know, dad corpse hot dog breath. They didn't quite know how to handle the dead in a clean way, so they just wanted these bodies out of sight and out of mind. So all these dead bodies that were laying in alleys or on the side of the road, they were gathered and then tossed under the city in these tunnels. These tunnels have been there for centuries before them, so you might as well put them to good use. And by good use, I mean let's just stack skulls in an orderly fashion and terrorize civilians for centuries to come. Beautiful.
Number 10, the switchblade comb. A leather jackets, smacking jukeboxes, and a switchblade knife. Nobody was cooler than the Fonz on Happy Days. Well, maybe your uncle. Everybody has a cool uncle. But something I just think is silly, or something a lot of men probably use today, or at least the super cool guys who have no idea what or who the Fonz is, the switchblade comb. Basically, it's the same thing as a switchblade, but instead of a small blade, you got something to comb your hair with. Because when you're a man, you have to look fresh and tough at the same time. Trust me, ladies, it's how we operate. Gotta look tough, gotta look mean, and kick the jukebox. Hey. Number 9, the ball jacuzzi. I don't know about you guys, but there's nothing better than a nice hot tub. I'd like to say I spend a lot of time in hot tubs with cute girls. However, due to my financial situation, most of the hot tubbing that I've done has been at public pools where I shared a hot tub with older Italian and Greek men who I swear were still wearing sweaters. But that was just their hair. Speaking of hair and saggy skin, meet the Tescuzzi, a tiny hot tub for the piscadille and 2 matzo balls. Hey, I understand, your undercarriage has to stay clean, and honestly, I would love one. Chris and I were talking about we want one. We might even share one, who knows? Number 8, the all-in-one. Alright man, this one goes out to us, the manly men, the dads, the sons, the brothers. The men who work all day and night and still have time for their family. I appreciate you and I see you, brother. Want to know why we have so much time, ladies? Well, that's because we've cut back on time in the shower with a very 5-head invention. We call it body wash, or face wash, Or shampoo, because we use it for everything. 3-in-1. Yes, that's right. If we buy a body wash product, that means it will be used all over our bodies. No time for L'Oreal Pantene or that purple shampoo with the kangaroo. We speedrun showers so we can get back into doing the things that you ladies love. Like not putting the toilet seat down. Number 7. King of the porcelain throne. Kings, I hear you. Life can be busy and the shower speed run is not the only product that we've invented. Here's another shout out to all my kings who take extra time while sitting upon the porcelain throne. I salute you. Yes, that's right. Besides doing the hygienic process of evacuating one's bowels, we take a mental health break in the bathroom. A time to check in, relax, take inventory, and take a breath of some not so fresh air, especially if you ate Taco Bell the night before. Is it strange to sit there in that situation? Perhaps, but like any other guru, we need a space to feel our spirituality. Would Yoda be Yoda if he didn't meditate? Sit on the toilet, I will. Number 6, the beard apron. This is just so smart and I'm seriously considering buying one because this is the bane of my existence. Sometimes the lumberjack look is too much for me and the closer I get to looking like Chris Farley, the better. I think I have a great motivational speaker impression. Maybe I'll show you guys one day. We'll see. I don't know. However, when shaving my beard, I have nowhere to go and it's too cold in the winter to do it outside, so that's why this is so smart. Basically, it's an apron that you post up like a hammock. So when you're shaving down those chiseled cheekbones of yours, all the little hairs fall into the apron. That way your GF can't yell at you because there's no mess to be made. Necessity truly is the mother of all invention.
Number 5, tooth removal. Here, I found this quote from a dentist in the medieval period who would travel from town to town. Take some newts. Buy some called lizards, and those nasty beetles which are found in fens during the summertime. Calcine them in an iron pot, and make a powder thereof. Wet the forefinger of the right hand, insert it in the powder, and apply to the tooth frequently, refraining from spitting it off. When the tooth will fall away without pain, it is proven. Hey, if it is proven, who am I to say otherwise? Just some lowly YouTube host. If you weren't using your Newton beetle powder to remove your tooth, then it looks like you're going the much more old-fashioned tooth-pulling route. And that was much, much worse. They had rudimentary anesthetics that was possibly used then, but you had to worry about bleeding and infection. I think I'll stick with my beetle newt powder.
Number 4, Rejuvenique mask. I got another mask for you guys, I know, but I saw this and I just didn't know what to think, honestly. It's a mask that you wear, but it's plugged into a battery pack and it sends pulsations to your face. After, of course, you've applied the toning gel. What the heck is toning gel? I don't know. This is supposed to tone your face, apparently. Your jawline, or I just feel like plunging your face into a mask that's hooked up to a voltage, that's just a bad idea. Oh yeah, and also a bad idea is the mask itself. Look at this thing. I mean, that's a heinous looking mask right there. You can come home from school one day and your mom's gonna be sitting at the kitchen table looking up Michael Myers. Oh, that's not okay. Please don't do horror movie beauty stuff, ladies, please. No, I don't wanna be scared. I don't like scary stuff.
Number 3, spit black. Back in the roaring 20s, they had mascara, just like we do now. But unlike the little tubes of stuff we have, they had a block or cake of the stuff. To get it to a state where they could actually apply it to their lashes, they would need to add water. And what's the quickest form of water? That's right, it's just spit. The mascara cake stuff was made of soap and coloring, which you don't really want to put near your eyes. But then, knowing that people are using their spit to apply it, it's your own spit, so I guess if you're comfortable with that, you do you, pal, but makes me think of dudes using their saliva to like lick their eyebrows. Ick.
Number 2, sharp teeth. I like Shark Boy and Lava Girl just as much as the next guy. However, that doesn't mean I want to look and feel like a shark. This one just creeps me out. I don't hate the dentist, but I think everyone can agree with me that teeth getting drilled is just uncomfortable. It just kind of sucks. Especially if there's like powdered tooth in your mouth. That's just the worst. It's kind of gross too. I don't know. Well, what I do know, however, is that there are some cultures out there where the ladies get their teeth sharpened or filed. Oh yes, and there ain't no dentist office there either. This is bite the leather, you're in dad's kitchen kind of operation. Oh god. I would honestly talk more about it, but the editor's gonna show some pictures, and I'm gonna have to stop because if I see them, I legit get queasy. I don't want to see that stuff. No thank you, no teeth sharpening. No.
Number 1, mercury laced skin cream. Secure Gorad's Oriental Cream and take your first step to a new lasting beauty. That's right, over time you too can develop dark rings around your eyes, lose some of those pearly whites, and get stunning black gums. That's because Gorad's Oriental Cream is made with calomel. What is calomel, I hear you ask? It's a mercury compound. Yeah, it doesn't sound so good anymore, does it? While the women of the 1920s who used this product maybe once or twice would be fine, those who used it over long periods of time subjected themselves to mercury poisoning. But hey, Gorad's cream came in white, flesh, and whatever the hell color Rachel is supposed to be.
Number 10. Liquid stockings. When most people think of war, they think of side A versus side B. Man with gun shoot other man with gun. Simple, right? To most, yes, but the war departments and those behind the scenes know that the war is a logistical nightmare, seriously. A lot of things on this list are because we needed to find alternatives. Millions of resources were pooled together to defeat the tyranny of fascism in World War II. Besides guns and ammunition, obviously, literally everything else is needed. Rubber, cloth, fabric, food, water, oil, grease, medicine, gas, men, and all kinds of metals. One of the things that was needed for the war effort was nylon, the same thing your grandma used for her stockings. So in Britain, when there was a shortage, the ladies did the next best thing and used a liquid to paint on their stockings. A classic example of keeping calm and carrying on. Way to go, ladies. Should be a bad idea though. If I started sweating on those, I'd have paint everywhere. It wouldn't be good, dude. It would not be good. Number 9, food rations. I know, but listen, you just aren't you when you're hungry. Nobody can tell me that they feel pretty on an empty stomach. Am I right? Maybe less bloated, but still, you're not your best. Sadly for people living at home during the war, food rationing was quite common. Meats, grains, dairy, pretty much everything was needed to feed the troops. My grandparents always tell this story of them growing up during the war and that they would trade in tins of grease collected at home for free entry to the movie theater, which kind of makes sense. Which if you ask someone from that time is a big deal. The grease had multiple uses in the military. There's lots of uses for it. There's grease, guns, you need grease. You need the grease. Anyway. Number 8, Rivet Rosie. Every lady out there right now, young and old, has different fits. I just wear what's clean or what makes me look like a stereotypical Canadian. I do a lot of plaid, that's just how it goes. When you get to the club, that's a different fit from the one you wear from going to work, right? Well, despite the glamour and the chicness of 1940s in Hollywood, a lot of ladies had to go to work. Men were at war. You gotta fill the quotas, gotta fill it. Can't exactly show up to the bomb factory in a tight dress and heels for a long day's work. Now can you? No, wouldn't be comfortable. Number 7, red for victory. Mustache Man hated red lipstick. Yeah, I didn't know that either. But when a scary dictator man says no lipstick, that means no red lipstick. Whew, don't want to cross him. The Western Allies took this to their advantage. Marketing for this got a huge boost, as wearing the cosmetics that the angry German man didn't want you to was thought to be contributing to the war effort, and honestly, it was. This is also impartial to inventing pinup girls, or at least the whole culture for them. The ladies all dolled up to stick it to the man in the eagle's nest, and gave the boys overseas something worth fighting for. That's right, ladies. Show them what they're fighting for. Number 6, close shave. This one goes out to all the guys out there that sucked at shaving the first couple times they had to do it. I'm just one of them. Heck, who am I kidding? I'm still pretty bad at it. Maybe you shaved too close and accidentally cut yourself. Shaved against the grain, or maybe you missed a couple hairs. That always happens to me. Keeping yourself groomed in the military is important. Ask any drill sergeant, they'll tell you. But can you honestly imagine trying to shave in a war zone? The only thing I would want to be doing is hiding or telling jokes. I would love to tell jokes in a war, but they don't exactly have private first class jokers, do they? No, they don't. I wouldn't last long, but yes, shaving was a part of military life, completed with a tiny shave kit and mirror whilst under the watch of the enemy. No thank you.
Number 5. Cantharidin. Okay, we all want to know what this magical elixir is that gives us that commercial-like, thick and zesty hair that flows like locks, Farrah Fawcett, Fabio Blowout, Lion's Mane style. But not all of us are blessed with such a luck. People have been tinkering at this whole hair growth thing for a while now, and we think we figured it out. Blister beetles. Hear me out, hold on. We squeeze out a beetle's larvae juice and use it on our heads. Approximately 2,500 species of beetles secrete this substance called cantharidin, which is collected mainly from the Spanish fly and liquefied into a topical. Removes warts, gets rid of pimples, and apparently burns off all your head hair so that new hair grows. Yeah, kind of like an unapproved FDA strength Nair. Also used in love potions. Of course. How did I not know that? Apparently Caesar's wife laced meals with Spanish fly to spark illicit activity and blackmail the politicians into strategic manipulations. Side effects include difficulty breathing, violent convulsions, coma, and even death. And of course, hair loss. Well, ain't that a kick in the shorts, huh? Hair loss. Number 4, petroleum. We know this stuff. It's been used in a ton of beauty products over the years. Popular during the 19th century, petrol acted as a dry shampoo, stripping the hair of dirt and grease and oil by applying more grease and oil. And of course, lip balms and salves. Apparently this stuff was a hit. Robert Chesborough's new type of petroleum jelly for your lips called Vaseline. Or how about Madame Fox's Life for the Hair? But these jelly-based lotions and salves sometimes led to fatal consequences. Basically, not only a carcinogen, it was really flammable. I mean, thank God we don't have like torches on walls you can just like walk into, but still, petroleum jelly ain't good for you. It has carcinogens like polyaromatic hydrocarbons that cause all sorts of cancers. Also kidney toxins, neurotoxins, respiratory toxins. Gotta go organic, people, you know? Little beeswax on the lips. Number 3. X-rays. The early 20th century was full of, yay, we did this, and we definitely shouldn't have done that. Like history is made from trial and error. There was always something new to try. In the early 1900s, the latest craze was X-rays. Yep, like X-rays, like you broke your tibia and fibula here and now we're looking at it on a 4K screen. All you needed was a cathode ray tube and a power source. People were trying to use these rays to burn away skin diseases and tumors apparently. Just your wife going 40 feet behind a brick wall every night so you can get that Bahamas tan we all want. Basically, people's teeth and hair started falling out all over. Not that long ago. Nana was just sitting in her chair knitting with some X-ray machine, doing work on her skin, you know? The clients of Trico salons had clients placed in front of a large mahogany box with a small window in front of it. A switch was then turned on and a timer set for the period of exposure. 5 minutes of exposure. And then lather, rinse, and repeat. Unfortunately, it caused severe burns and skin damage, basal cell carcinomas, tumors, ulcers in the lungs, and lymph nodes all over. Just a half an hour in front of an X-ray machine. Holy smokes. Number 2, radium. You've got radium eyes. Guitar Hero, best song, 100%. Also, apparently a very deadly element. Helen Cavendish, a staple of high society salons in London, was well regarded when it came to the latest in beauty treatments. In 1911, she launched a range of products utilizing a new radioactive element called radium, which became a hot new elixir of sorts. By the early 1900s, many beauticians were tinkering around trying to find the perfect consumer use for it. Cavendish products included shampoos, hair growers, and face creams, all made with radioactive radium water. White's Radium Hair Food, Frederick Godfrey's Renair Radioactive Antiseptic Hair Tonic, the Oradium Hat Pad, they were all over. They were getting witty back then, you know? Until everyone's jaw started falling off. Yeah. Seems like the radioactive element in the radium just has some nasty effects on the old body. Necrosis of the bones means it's just kind of slowly deteriorating you. Yeah. No side effects at all. Just glowing in the dark every night before bed. Honey, have you seen my elixir? Number 1. Parasites. Of course, not everything we designed to make us look better, fresher, and younger in life is chemically engineered. No, some are natural and organic. Like belladonna drops, for instance, right out of the ground. And beetles for pleasant colognes and perfumes. And of course, our calorie counter friend, the tapeworm. This very popular diet works by swallowing a pill that has a tapeworm egg inside of it. When the egg hatches, the tapeworm grows inside your body and eats whatever you're eating. Well, helps you eat. Kind of like a Lady and the Tramp type situation in your belly. And of course, you'd never guessed it, from the Victorian era. As illustrated in the Ugly Girl Papers by S.D. Powers, a popular read in Victorian England. One invention created by Dr. Myers of Sheffield attempted to lure the tapeworm in or out by inserting a cylinder with food via the digestive tract. Yeah, no surprise that many patients choked to death before the tapeworm was successfully removed or inserted. Not to mention other intestinal infections one would develop. It's a bug living inside you. You know, just to keep that 31 waist.